Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the August T. Minor administrative offices in each elementary, middle, and secondary school in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminetti? Mr. Donlin? Mrs. Farley? Here. Mr. Heffernan?
Here.
Mr. Lill?
Here.
Mrs. Guineas?
Yeah.
Mrs. Wright?
Here.
Mrs. Tobacco?
Here.
Mr. Capone?
Here. I now need a resolution to go into executive session for discussions of HIV, settlement agreements, court on-site licensing agreement, for personnel matters and negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? See you in a little while. Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the August T. Minor administrative offices in each elementary, middle, and secondary school in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti?
Here.
Mr. Donlin? Mrs. Farley?
Here.
Mr. Heffernan,
Here.
Mr. Little?
Here.
Mrs. Minimes?
Here.
Mrs. Wright?
Here.
Mrs. Tobacco?
Here.
Mr. Capone?
Here. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Getting into our committee reports, we're starting with student services. Ms. Tiedemann and Mr. Little, you want to pick that up?
So, do you want to do it, or?
Want to come back to me?
Sure. Jack, you read the policy?
Yeah, we can do policy. We did have a meeting on July 12th, and Matt, I'll let you update everyone.
Sure. So tonight, the second reading, and you're going to be voting on 4 policies that were discussed last meeting. Policy 5410, promotion and retention. Policy 3233, political activities. Policy 1648.15, record keeping for healthcare settings in school buildings. And policy and regulation 5536, random drug and alcohol testing. Again, those were addressed and discussed last meeting, and they'll be voted on second reading tonight. The meeting we had on the 12th, we discussed 10 policies that will be on for a first reading tonight. I'll quickly highlight those 10 policies. The first one was not on the alert. It was done by request. It's regulation 5430, class rank calculation. What that is there's going to be an adjustment to AP and dual enrollment calculation in order to ensure consistency. There was also a discussion related to regulation 2624, which is grading system, and that's going to standardize grading procedures within departments in the district. Again, both of those were requests to discuss and modify, not necessarily on alerts. The third policy was Every Student Succeeds Act. This new policy is going to reflect changes that were recently made to Title I Policy Guide and Parent and Family Engagement. Policy 0163, Student Journalism, is a brand new policy. The statute requires school districts to adopt a written policy concerning student freedom of expression. The fifth policy that will be on there for our first read tonight is policy 0163. It addresses quorum and how the doctrine of necessity should be invoked for the Board of Education. The sixth policy is policy 0143.2, high school representative to the Board of Education. School districts with any grades 9 through 12 must appoint or elect one student to be a non-voting representative of the Board of Education. That will take place in September. The superintendent will decide how the election or the appointment will take place. The next policy was policy 1511, the Board of Education website accessibility policy. School district websites, including online content that's offered by a third party, to be in compliance with guidelines and regulations with regard to accessibility for people with disabilities. So that is going to be on for a first read as well. Policy 5513, care of school property. It was just updated language related to textbook fines. The next policy that was addressed was policy 5517, school district issued student identification cards. Obviously, we've always had identification cards. This year, we are mandated to put suicide prevention hotline on the back of every ID card, grades 7 through 12. So that will take place for September. That's already been taken care of with the company that we utilize for our ID cards. Two policies 3216 and 4216. One is for staff members, the other is for support staff members. And what this does, Strauss Esme removed the gender-specific language for those two dress and grooming policies for teachers and support staff members. Policy 3270, professional responsibilities. There was no significant changes. We are going to keep the same language that requires staff members to submit lesson plans weekly. And finally, we discussed regulation 3270, which is lesson plans and plan books. We're not going to be able to put that on for a first read due to the fact that more work and conversations need to take place with the directors and supervisors. We're hoping to get those on in August. So that was a long list and it was a very short, the highlights from those policies, but if there's any specific questions, I take them now.
Matt, are we still, in light of the new 988 suicide number, are we changing what number is on the back of the ID cards or?
I think it's aligned with those changes. It was preemptive.
Okay.
They're on there. That's
on there.
That's on there, correct.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Michelle, you ready? Perfect.
We have a combined meeting of curriculum and special education.
Did you want to do the special education? I'd do.
Yeah, I'll do the special education.
Okay, I'll do the other part. That's why I was like, looking at it.
Oh, okay.
We had a big meeting.
We did, we had,
Curriculum and special education, that's all.
A big meeting. Okay, so you're gonna go.
So you can start with special education.
Okay, we had guest speaker, so to speak. Mr. Olson came to talk to us about the district's initiative to expand our full-day kindergarten opportunities with the integrated class. We currently have one integrated class, but are expanding to two. Mr. Olson came to talk about the inclusion grant, and we are working with NJCIE. They are assisting us in expanding our full-day kindergarten opportunities. We'll continue working with them going into year 3. And of course, as we expand to additional full day, we need to consider space and staffing, and those are the things that Mr. Wilson was bringing to our attention and discussing with us. We also discussed the behavioral disabilities class. We always have one at each level, but it's always based on what is in a student's IEP, whether or not a student is projected for the program. So we have every opportunity for behavioral support on the special ed continuum. And then we updated the BCBA and RBT hiring, which is on the agenda tonight. We do have in personnel RBTs for hire, and we are continuing to search for additional RBTs for the district. And we also have a BCBA on the agenda for hire.
So also as part of that meeting too, we also had Mr. Patrick who spoke about some mental health services that we have in terms of our special services. So we talked about the social emotional learning program curriculum, which is on the agenda tonight. A positive action is the curriculum that was chosen. It's K through 12. We're very excited about it. There's some example books that are being passed around in case anybody in the audience wants to take a look at them after the meeting. The cost is $71,000. And like I said, we're voting on this tonight. We spoke about Lifelines, which is a suicide prevention program. Now, this is something that's existed for a while, but we had to sort of reinvigorate it. The implementation is required. Suicide prevention program is a requirement. It's also one of our policies. Historically, we use Lifelines, and basically this is just reinvigorating it for grades 5 through 12, I guess working with, I forget who.
Health and physical education.
Yes,
In health.
yeah, and who the company that, or who the organization.
So we work through the Mental Health Association. They provide these services free of cost.
That's right. We also talked about, and this is maybe, Mr. Crash, if I go offline here, it's this universal screener, okay? So we're partnering with Effective School Solutions for implementation of universal mental health screener. We talked about timeline and rollout of the tool. The goal of the screener is to be used on an opt-in basis and will be piloted for 10th graders for next year, okay? Information will be sent home to parents. I don't know if it's been sent already.
We're working on a revised letter right now, Mr. Miller.
Right, this will be at the start of the school year, opt-in. Documents regarding the parental communication and screening tool and process have been reviewed. We're gonna have more discussions. I guess the thing here is sort of let parents understand what this is. It's there to help. Maybe Mr. Patrick, you
We want to roll this out on a very small basis initially, and we want to be as transparent as possible. We'll share information about the universal screener prior to it being implemented, obviously with a broader community. And then, like you said, it'll be an opt-in process. So the parents will have a good understanding of what they're opting into if they decide to do so. The goal is to identify any at-risk behaviors of students that we might be able to provide services or identify as needing services prior to a tragedy occurring, or just giving them the support that they need. But again, the goal is to be as transparent as possible. You mentioned that we were going to do it at the beginning of the year. It's looking more like an October or November rollout so that we can make the parents very aware of what the plan is. Again, it's going to start at one of the high schools initially, And we're going to roll it out from one grade level and we'll see where it goes from there. Just to get back to the SEL curriculum real quickly, the reason that we felt so strongly about positive action, number one, it's a K-12 program, which really we wanted to have something that identified and addressed needs for all of our students. And also it was heavily weighted in mental health also, where some of the programs were not, they were more character driven. This is a nice combination between mental health and character development. So we feel like it's the program really that's going to benefit our students the most.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And getting back to the universal screener, I think that's something that parents should just be very aware of. It's not meant to categorize anybody. It's not meant to, it'll be very clear how that will do. There won't be any requirements once you're in. It will still be a parental control. So that was a lot of our discussion about not panicking people. Oh, wow, I got this in the whatever communication from the school district. Is there a problem? So that's going to be something to look out for.
And we plan on sharing some of
Yes.
this information with some parent group meetings prior to implementation.
Yeah, that's one thing we talked about, sharing it with, I think, PIC in terms of how the communication would be phrased, just so it doesn't, because we looked at, I think, an example, and it was looked a little bit, alarming just from.
It is a tool. It is a tool that's developed through ESS with a software company that's utilized in several districts.
Yeah.
And it has been successful in identifying at-risk behavior. But I think, slow and steady is the right way to implement it in the district while we get going on it. So that's the plan.
Yeah, and that was a great meeting. So thank you.
Is ESS doing that?
So we worked through when we expanded our relationship with ESS, obviously it was additional counseling, it was the fit to return procedures, it was parent and staff workshops, and another piece was universal screener. So they helped develop the universal screener, but they work with a software company. So they don't actually develop the tool, the software company does, but they work in conjunction with ESS, who's going to be partnering with us to to deliver it to our parents.
And it's going to be the same personnel from ESS that we have now?
They're not necessarily going to be, they're not going to be administering the tool to all of the students. They're going to help review the document after the students complete it. And if there's additional counseling services or identification that's needed, they will help us with that process. But they're not going to be working with the students actually to deliver the tool.
That's a good question, Patrick. Who will be, do we anticipate?
Our counseling staff.
Our own staff, our own.
Correct.
Staff.
I mean, it hasn't been identified exactly who's
Right.
going to be doing it, but it's going to be, trained professionals,
Our people.
people.
Yeah. And again, it will be also based on parent consent.
Correct. Opt-in.
Thank you for your help with that. We're good.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick, also. Moving on to curriculum instruction, Mrs. Barber.
I think that John pretty much covered everything that I was going to say because it was a joint meeting. The only other thing I'll add is that the district is going to be putting together a couple of parent information sessions at the end of August to, just give information about both the social emotional learning curriculum that John just talked about and also the K-5 health curriculum, which was revamped as part of the new standards, and just so that all parents, if they want to, can finally feel comfortable with what's going to be taught, and it will be, I think, recorded as well, so it'll be up on the website too if you can't make it. So be on the lookout for information about that, but otherwise I think John pretty much covered it.
Well, I think we also have the common grading though, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the tiered system support.
Yeah, we talked about just trying to get more uniformity throughout the district and throughout similarly situated classes, basically, trying to make the grading structure as objective as possible so that students could feel that everything was fair and, just looking at the way that things were weighted. So some changes were made and implemented there. I think that the policy is on for first read.
It's first read, yeah, we just
It's on
talked
first
about
read,
that.
right.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I'm very happy about how quickly things are moving from curriculum committee to policy committee so that we can make these changes. So, thank you both of you for making that stuff happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the only other thing was that unfortunately, I know that we talked about the National Equity
Yes.
Lab, the GRIT course that was going to be offered at North. Fortunately, just because of timing, there wasn't enough time to get enough student interest to run that class. There are minimums that I guess
They require minimums, but we are going to continue to try to offer it next fall and pursue the spring intro to computing class. And we did do multiple waves of trying to, have some students enroll in the class. But by the time National Equity Lab had given us information and solidified our application, kids had made their schedule. So it was a good attempt at a first pass, but we're going to continue that effort because we do believe we'll get a better enrollment when we have more time to really have conversations with students.
Right.
And I'm sorry, Kate, did you mention the tier, the tiering system to work over the summer? About our.
No, I
I
didn't.
think that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah, I
could-
can talk
I think,
about
I think that,
Yep.
that's gonna be very
Yep.
interesting that summer, and sort of how you're trying to bring that together.
Yep.
And basically unite it a little bit more with special
Yep,
education.
so we've convened a voluntary summer committee of professionals from across the district who are involved in the tiered intervention process and the INRS process. They've kind of sat in silos over the course of time where in fact they really should be married with one another. So this committee has been, asked to examine our current processes, our current structures, examine our current documents. And we are going to be working to put together a framework and guidelines for INRS and tiered system supports as they exist together. And have those documents ready for staff to access at the beginning of the year. We are also going to be training every single individual in the district in those August days on the philosophy of tiered system of supports and the structures that we are creating to really streamline the process and ensure that we are providing intervention in multiple areas to students when they're in need and have a vetted and efficient kind of identification of the service process. So we're excited about the work, and we really do believe that it is a great marriage between, special service, general ed, and all of the moving parts that have existed, but the interconnectivity was more absent. So this is a really, really big step forward for us.
Thank you, Ms. Apple. Negotiation, Mr. Backer, are you up?
You could talk about scheduling. You could talk about the Teamsters,
Yeah.
and then we talk about, yeah.
Just to announce that we did fill our contract with the Teamsters for the facilities workers. We're all very pleased that that's gone through. And we will be meeting with the MTEA August 16th.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask everybody if you would like to make a public comment, please come up to the microphone. 3 minutes and take your name and address for the record. Your items only.
Frank,
Yeah.
may I ask a question before
I'm
we
sorry.
get started? No, I should ask when we're doing policy, but I was reading something caught my eye. I just want to know, this policy or the bylaw guide that we have here for the high school student representative,
Right.
is that new?
Yes,
Brand new, it's a mandate.
Yes.
Are we allowed to change it a little bit if we want, and add something?
do you mean for the number of people that we're going to put on it? So we were talking about different options. It says that you have to have at least one, but it doesn't say that you can't have more. So we were discussing the possibility of maybe having one from both high schools and rotate.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah,
Because they're gonna go back and they're gonna tell their student population what goes on. So you need one from each high school.
we talked about maybe making it the person who does the weekly reports, but we do have to come up with the process of how we're going to appoint or elect, and we would like to work in collaboration with the student population at both schools, but we agree that maybe 2 representatives is the way to go.
Okay, that's,
Good point.
Thank
Good
you.
solution, yes.
That's-
That's good. Now, once again, turning to the public comment on agenda items only. If anybody looking to make a public comment, please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Yogi Safety, Middletown, New Jersey. A lot on this agenda. Just a quick comment on the tiered systems of support that Mrs. Alphone was talking about. That's great news. Where you were talking about INRS and tiered systems of training. A lot of times, those of us that had kids in special ed, I noticed particularly in elementary school, we were told we couldn't use those tiered systems of support because we were in special ed. So I don't see that as much in middle school now, with the change in administration. But, that was something that we always struggled with too. So I appreciate you guys looking at that. It's great news. Also on item personnel. Item 12, the approval of job descriptions. Can anybody explain what are new positions versus shuffling people versus what's actually new? Because there are 4 new job descriptions. So I know they're new, but is that just redefining, redesigning people's roles, or these actually 4 new positions? Other people would like to share about that.
There's one new position, and that would be the principal position. The other positions are just,
Refining and roles.
yes,
Okay, thank you. Item 10, where we talk about additional teaching blocks. I raised this back in, I guess, the winter. This is a very expensive proposition. I mean, I don't know how many hours they will be spending. But I know back in the winter, when it was one of my daughter's teachers, it was $40,000 to cover her on maternity leave. And I was told that this only happened in emergent situations.
well, this is the situation. First of all, it's actually cheaper because there's no additional benefits connected to it. So it's not more expensive. It's an additional teaching period for a teacher we currently have. So it's just paying them for that extra period, and their benefits and everything are the same. So in that sense, it's a savings. But we don't like to overload our teachers. We only do this when necessary, and this, the CPE program that we're starting requires very specific certifications. And we did try to find a teacher that had that, and we could not find it. So we do have teachers at North and South Range that they have to have an MBA also in addition to their teaching cert, and a teacher usually doesn't have an MBA. They'll have teaching masters, but not a master's in business administration. So that's why we're using this method.
Okay, all right. I figured there had to be something specific. Number 18, special contracts. There's a section of 6th grade mentors in Thompson, which seemed only specific to Thompson. So I thought that might be interesting to be explained.
Ms. Huffman, you want to explain that?
Yeah, I can. It was ESSER money that when we were awarded ESSER money, over the course of the last couple of years, there were ideas from buildings on how to use some of those ESSER funding, and Thompson had proposed a program for incoming 6th graders that would involve mentorship. So it is funded through ESSER and was based on a request from the building administration as kind of a starter program.
Also on the grading guidelines, I noticed there was a section about participation 0 to 10%. And that wasn't something that was edited in the policy, so it's been existent. So when we say guidelines, there are clearly teachers that have up to 20%.
We are requiring them to keep their grade structures within those ranges, and they were already discussed and agreed upon at the department level. They will be preloaded into our grading platform, and all teachers within the department have had a voice and have had input, but it will be a requirement for them to stay within those boundaries. Absolutely. Yep. And the reason being is we don't want to have skewed grades with liberties being taken for including, major assignments versus minor assignments, more or less, and certainly homework and participation sometimes being overly or, sometimes absent. So we felt this was a really important way to have our grades be representative of mastery and progress versus, other things that tend to exist within a grade.
Okay. And then the last point would be number 17 on approval of coaching. I don't know how to put this tactfully, but I don't know when last we had a report from co-curricular. So I think that's Leonora's. And I'm not sure what Mr. Carroll is, he's not at meetings, he's not showing up. And I think when it comes to the coaching side, there's a huge impact on our kids, huge impact. And I think we as a community kind of deserve some update as to what is happening. So, and on that item, I respectfully don't think we should pay 3 for 3 stipends. There are only 2 teams. I think everybody should be handled consistently, and we should make sure we share stipends so that the most kids get an opportunity to participate in sports.
There is a co-curricular meeting set up for this Tuesday, so.
This has been put to the attention before there. I don't want you to think that this, I don't know that
Okay,
Yeah,
I've
you
just
know, I'm
been
not
kind
one
of,
to talk about things.
I've just been month after month, I've been kind of, and there's been no report, and I know Dave gets up here and wherever Dave gets up
Yes.
there and does his report, and there's never anything on co-curricular. And bluntly, he's one of our highest paid administrators, and I expect more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Henry Swinos, Sherman Terrace. I just have one question. I believe I saw it on job description about the sign language teacher. Was that on the?
Proximity learning.
There was a,
We're
being
doing the
hired.
proximity learning amount contract, so we are using proximity learning at our high school level for ASL 2 and 3 courses. We did try to hire, but we were not able to secure a person with the appropriate certifications. We did secure a teacher that will be teaching 8th grade sign language, and we'll also work with that individual to have them get the high school certification as well. And then our ASL 1 Take 1 courses are all taught by a live instructor that is our own staff member.
So my question is there 7th grade? sign
No,
language
not for
teacher?
this current year.
There's not.
No, but there will be 8th grade, but our hope is to continue to expand the program.
This was a very
It's a
simple
matter-
question for my
Yeah,
son.
it's a matter
To ask tonight.
Yeah, it's a matter of finding certificated staff to do it. And we just were concerned with a virtual environment for 7th graders.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a public comment? Seeing no one from the microphone, we'll just close public comment. We move on to motion to approve the minutes, executive session 5:31, workshop voting meeting 5:31, executive session 6:14, and workshop voting meeting 6:14.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I'm sorry, we had executive session 6:23 and special voting meeting 6:23 as well, so let's do that over.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to the report of the president, I just want to reiterate what we spoke about here today. July 16th, 988 became the nationwide mental health crisis and suicide prevention hotline. Available for anyone who's experiencing mental health related distress, thoughts of suicide, or substance use crisis. This is also available for family and friends of a loved one. And whoever needs the support, please remember there are always people there to help and someone to speak to. Moving on to the report of the president, a motion to approve. The board president recommends the approval of agreement between Middletown Township Board of Education and Teamsters Local Number 11 Maintenance and Custodial Unit for the term July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Items 1 through 4. Business Administrator 1 through 4.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Superintendent, Mrs. Wolf.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you all are able to enjoy the summer. I know it's a little warm today, but hopefully you got a chance to go swimming or go to the pool. Go into the ocean. Since our last board meeting, we finished our 21-22 school year. Our high school graduations and middle school promotions were very, very nice. And we wish our high school graduates the best in the next chapter of their lives. And we also wish our 8th grade graduates a successful high school experience. Our extended school year program, our SOAR program, our esports camps, our instrumental music program, book clubs, and summer recovery program have all begun. The admin team and I have been going around to the schools, visiting the students and the staff, and it's really nice to see a summer environment. The students are so engaged, they're learning a lot, but they're having a lot of fun also. I also want to reiterate something that Mrs. Farley spoke about. In late August, we will hold 2 curriculum information sessions for parents. We will be presenting our SEL curriculum and our health curriculum. And parents will also learn about some of the curriculum mandates and how they are addressed in our curriculum. So an informational flyer will be going out shortly.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Walker. Motion to approve items C2 and 3.
So
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed on number 2.
Abstentions? Motion to approve A1 through C2.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve items D1 through G3. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? To personnel. The motion to approve items 1 through 23.
Yeah, we're skipping.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we got them. Like D1 through
We
G3.
went all the way through, yeah.
Oh,
Everybody good?
that was finance and everything?
Yeah, everybody good. D1 through G3.
Oh. Oh.
You have any?
Okay.
You good?
Sorry.
Excuse
Okay.
me. That was good.
I remember.
Now we have a motion to approve items in personnel 1 through 23.
So
We just, one clerical correction needs to make on the coaching recommendations for the South assistant cheer. She should be on step 1. It's 2,648. Sharon Crowley. It's not listed on the table. Salary should be 2,648. Thank you.
Everybody get that?
Any objection? Yeah.
Good. No objections to that? Okay, got a motion to approve items 1 through 23.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
Yes. I would like to say I will not be voting for number 23. I disagree. I understand this is an administrative prerogative, but I have to say, Dr. Cartier has been a huge part of High School North, and I think she has been one of the best things for our students and our community. She cares, she put in her time. She never lets our kids down, never. She's always there for them. She's always there for our community, no matter what the need is, and she always fights to make sure the success of the students are there. So therefore, I don't agree with this, and I will be voting no for that.
All in favor of items 1 through 23?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I am voting yes for most of them. I'm voting no on. On the job descriptions, number 12, D, I'm voting no. I'm voting no for number 22 and number 23.
And I am also voting no for letter D and no for 22 and 23.
Abstentions? Moving on to old business. Anything old business needed up?
Yes, Mrs. Walker, I had brought to your attention about a TikTok video of a student who entered one of our buildings, and you had written me back and said there was going to be an investigation. I never heard anything.
Mr. Kirkpatrick, do you have any update on that? It's become a police investigation at this point.
That matter was handed over to the police department, therefore, I believe that we were no longer able to discuss it or be involved in the process.
Okay, so to tap on to that, there was also discussion that there would be some kind of policy put in place for our students and some kind of a, well, my point to you was that that would have been a teachable moment for everyone in our building. about how, what would happen if this happens again, or, what they shouldn't do, educate them on the process? Have you done anything to start that rolling because you felt September would be the best place to do
I
that?
felt that September would be the best place to do that, yes.
So is
Yes,
there
we
something
we
in
are
mind?
we have our agenda that we're working on for our, we meet with the administrators over 2 days in August. We have those dates set up for that, and we're working on our whole agenda for that professional development for our administrators and our expectations and what they will be forwarding, turnkey basically to their students and their staff.
So will that turn over to policy, so it's put into a policy?
I
What would
don't
happen
think
if that happened?
That's not a policy.
I actually agree with you, Jones. I was thinking maybe something that would go into a student's handbook.
Either way,
Something that.
it's gotta be in
And
writing.
I agree, if it's something that's serious, we need to take
And it
discipline actions if
needs
it
to
does
be,
happen, but that is
it
something.
needs to be an educational moment. It's not punitive to hurt anybody, but to me, right then and there when it happened, because it didn't happen once, it happened twice, that would have been the perfect teachable moment to say, this is why, especially in these times.
Ms. Minu, this isn't going to necessarily extinguish the behavior at the time, but it's my understanding that the principal had a class meeting with the students and discussed the incident and not necessarily ramifications, but the process moving forward in general. So it was addressed within the days after the incident.
See, when I asked, I was told it was not going to happen until September.
Well, nothing formal.
Not on like a.
Nothing formal, but there was a meeting, a class meeting that occurred with the principals and the assistant principals. That was my understanding.
I'd add the discussion now on what specifically occurred, if it's an incident involving students, if you want to talk about policy and how you're going to correct it going forward.
Well,
One thing that I-
That's a district-wide
Yeah.
thing. We're not talking, September
We're talking
is to
about
discuss
everybody.
about the district, not just about an individual case, so.
Well, I'm not talking about just an individual case. I think the entire district needs to know, just why it's in place. Maybe people don't realize it. I know it was, taken as a prank or whatever, but it could be serious.
Yeah, it will be a safety, basically, lesson.
Okay,
Will be, given as, and with more than just that, but that.
we
would be
can't
part
talk
of it.
about the specific incident.
Right.
Yes.
And maybe talking about it might encourage more in the future.
Exactly.
Or could stop it.
Joan,
Yeah, for that one.
anything else?
Do we have a date for shared services?
Shared services is together.
I did just speak with Mr. Mercantani today, and he was gonna work on getting some dates together to replace the rescheduled meeting that we had from last week. So as soon as I hear something, I will pass it on to the committee.
So old business. Moving on to new business. Okay, we'll now open the microphone up for public comment. Please step forward if you'd like to make a public comment. State your name and address for the record.
The kid, teacher says everybody can go home and I raised here at safety, I started out in Middletown, New Jersey. Not to get into detail, but I think the South community, as it relates to what you guys were just discussing, I'll just call them breaches, would support very firm action and discipline. As I understand it, which was hard for me to believe, we have 40 doors in that building. So I think it's just something broader than discipline. I think we need to relook at some procedures. Also, are we getting near planning for the next 5-year strategic planning? I feel like we are running out of our 5-year term. And my only question was, I would love, since the number one concern in strategic planning when we started it was about class size. I would love to see a presentation on where we stand in the upcoming year on class sizes. So if we could do that in one of our meetings, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to make a public comment? Stepping forward, I wish to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So
Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? night, everyone.